let the dog. No, we're gonna keep the dog in. Hi, folks. Hi. You just caught that. If you started listening right now, you're totally without context. Hey, man, how are you?
What's up, man?
Man, this is allegedly a podcast that we're going to do, and so far we have been interrupted 3 times.
I don't think you can use the term allegedly.
Yeah,
we're actually freaking doing it.
Yeah. So this is a pod. Welcome to the Retro Show, folks. This is the Retro Show with Butch and Chris, and what is it? I think some introductions are in order first. Hi, I'm Butch Renfro, and this is my friend
Chris Curtis.
Chris Curtis, and we have known each other how long now?
Grade school.
Grade school, yeah, at least it was before it's before our voice changed.
The early 70s.
The early 70s, early mid 70s. Well, it was mid 70s when we moved there, so I'm thinking
mid 70s. Yeah.
Mid 70s, around 76 or so. Yeah, so a little while. So what is this podcast going to be around? Good question, because it's episode 1, and we kind of have an idea, but we're open to change. Not really. But what it's going to be, this is the Retro Show podcast, and you can find all of our social information and links to the podcast and all our social media sites if you would like to interact, which would be great, I think.
Fantastic.
At retroshow.net. Retroshow.net. Somebody already took the .com.
What, man?
I know. I was severely disappointed.
I wonder how much they charge us for that.
$5,000-$6,000. I don't know.
Probably more than that.
Probably more than that. Especially when we get to be rich and famous off of this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we may have up to tens of listeners. Tens.
At least, our first album's going to go aluminum.
At least. So let's get back to what the podcast is going to be about. Chris and I have this idea. We're always telling stories to other people about when we were growing up, and about how growing up in the 70s and 80s was just a fantastic time. And the movies, the music, the Saturday morning TV shows, which we'll be talking about today. Spoiler alert! Okay, so today's topic, Chris, best live action kids Saturday morning television program. It's going to be hard to get that on a T-shirt, but
so you're talking live action, not
the cartoons, the live action, not Super Friends. That might be on another show. Scooby-Doo, maybe on another show. Not this one, live action. Because starting in the early 70s, Sid and Marty Krofft was a big player in the field, started to put live action television programs aimed towards children.
Yep.
Okay. And Filmation also did some of those before they got into animation into the 80s, big with He-Man and all that kind of stuff. They had some big shows. Some of those may be on my list.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I went back after you told me what this was going to be about today, and I looked some stuff up on the internet, and half the shows on there I don't even remember.
You don't? See, I don't either. But I know the ones that stuck with me.
Well, I've only got. I mean, you wanted 5.
Yeah.
I literally came up with 2, and then I have a ringer that I'm going to throw in. That's going to blow your mind, I think, because it was definitely live action. So
okay, interesting. I'm kind of scared now. I want to rate this podcast where children can listen to it, not bump 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 bump. So
there's something wrong with my dishwasher.
Okay, it's already taken a dark turn, children. Okay, so so. Going into this podcast, now that you guys know what the topic of today's show is, I think one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about this is that maybe some younger folks that are listening, maybe it's possible, maybe they're stuck in the car with their parents or their grandparents, and they're listening to this. Did you know we only had 3 channels? 4 if you counted PBS.
Yep, and I watched a lot of PBS.
Yeah, and if the president came on, you were hosed.
I would, just for reference, I was born in 67. Butch, I think you were born in 66.
66, yeah.
So, mid-70s, we're 9 and 10 years old. 8, 9, 10, right in there. And
yeah.
I mean, a very impressionable age for television.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know where you want to go with that, but just for reference, that's how old we are. We're freaking old.
We're freaking old. And there were 3 channels on. So Saturday mornings, kids, Uncle Butch and Uncle Chris are going to tell you a story. Saturday mornings was basically programmed to kids. Okay, so it was from about 7 a.m. till 11 a.m. You had about 4 solid hours of kids programming.
Yep.
And it was some of the best times because, man, okay, so it's Saturday morning. I want you to go back with me, children. Go back with me and Uncle Chris because it's going to be like 1974. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, my parents couldn't roll me out of bed to go to school at 6 in the morning, but by golly, at 6 a.m., I was up in my little footy pajamas running in there to grab me a bowl of sugar-coated something. Yep. Parking in my rear end.
That can be another freaking show.
Oh, it's going to be. Best breakfast cereals. See there? We're already coming up. This is that's brain power, people. That's brain power.
Between the two of us, we actually have a brain. That's awesome.
Between allegedly.
You can use allegedly on that one.
Yes,
sure.
Allegedly. So, but it's Saturday morning, and we park ourselves in front of the TV. And if you got up too early, you had to watch the Farm Report.
Yes, and you know what? I find myself leaning more and more towards the Farm Report these days.
Yeah, it's because we're old. But back then, it's like, I didn't know what hog futures were.
No.
Hogs don't really have a future.
No, not really.
They turn into bacon, which is why I love hogs.
Yeah.
They're wonderful animals. Anyway, so let's get to the live-action television shows. So they're producing these live-action television shows. And Chris, I want you to go first with your pick.
So, number 1?
No, let's start at the bottom and work our way up.
Well, like I said, I only came up with 3. I'm going to say The Ringer for the last.
Okay.
But I guess my second pick would be Shazam and Isis.
Shazam, Isis. Okay, that's also on my list.
I actually did watch that show.
Yes.
I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the live-action shows, but that one was actually pretty cool.
Well, you know why? Because you and I have always been comic book fans.
Yeah.
We like superheroes.
Yep.
And, what was there? There was the Batman show from the 60s that they had in syndication. We'd watch that.
Every day. I mean, by golly, that came on at 3 o'clock, and you were going to be in front of the TV.
You were going to be parked in front of the TV. Yep. And so there was the Batman show, but the Shazam Isis show, you're right. Now, I have some interesting insight on that one. I'll go ahead and use it on your section here. I was going to use it on mine, but selfless as I am.
Oh, man, you're awesome.
I know. So, did you know that actually started out in let me look at my notes here. That actually started out as 2 separate television shows.
It did. Actually, it was
in 74.
Shazam
was first.
Yep.
And then The Secrets of Isis debuted in 1975.
Yep.
Now, both shows were successful on their own, but then, you got your chocolate and my peanut butter. They decided they would go great together.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, man, the girl playing Isis, I was just in love with her.
Well, yeah.
I was enamored with her at that age.
She was a pretty lady.
She was very pretty.
She was a pretty lady, for sure. And so they put them together, and it was a great show. I used to watch it. Now, I'm going to tell you something. As an adult now, I'm sorry. You watch that now, and it's like Billy Batson tours the. He was in an RV with an old dude, and I'm like going,
I don't know if this is appropriate.
I don't think that's appropriate. That don't look right to me.
On any channel.
On any channel.
Not
at
even
all.
cable.
I know. I'm like going, I don't think that's right now. So that's your number 3. Okay,
oh, it's in my number. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's say number 3.
All right. So what's next on your list?
My number 1, as far as live action TV, that's not The Ringer, but I think it's everybody's number 1 from that era. It's Land of the Lost, man.
Absolutely.
That show, I never missed that show.
No, that was appointment viewing. I might go out after, I might be out playing, but I would keep an eye on the clock because I had to come in. That was appointment television for all of us, I think.
Yep.
So that was a great show. That was one of the Sid and Marty Krofft shows.
It was good. It really was good. You watch it today and it sucked right in, dude. I was a huge dinosaur guy, though. I like dinosaurs. See,
that's
was cool.
The thing. Yeah. It was. Man, they knew their audience because what 8-year-old kid doesn't go dinosaurs? Yeah, I'm in. I'm there.
Here, an interesting side note to that. I mean, I've been to Chicago one time in my life, and I went there to see museums and art stuff that I've never. We don't have here in Arkansas like that. And we made it to the Field Museum, and the largest Tyrannosaurus. Yeah, the largest Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton that has ever been found is in that museum.
Yeah.
And the day I was there, the lady that actually found that was there.
Oh, that's cool.
And Cindy was pregnant, and I bought her book, and she signed her book to our unborn child at that time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was cool. But that was an interesting side note. But just for the dinosaur, the kid in me, yeah, it was awesome.
Okay, so just to chase a rabbit now, I also went to the Field Museum. I had an opportunity for a perfect day of just being able on my own schedule because I had to fly in for a conference, and so I had 2 flights available. One was at 9 in the morning, one was 11 o'clock at night. Uncle Butch ain't getting on a train at 11 o'clock at night in South Chicago, so I took the early flight. So had nothing to do for like literally 8 hours. So I bought a ticket on a bus ticket, and I went down to the Field Museum and just spent the entire day.
Absolutely, really cool place. I mean, to visit. If y'all ever, in Chicago, definitely don't miss the Field Museum. Did you see the Savoy Lions while you were there?
Yes.
That was interesting to me, and those particular lions in the movie. What's the name of that movie?
Is it?
What is the name?
Is it Heart of Darkness? No, what is it? See, someone's out there screaming at the radio.
Yeah.
The actual name right now.
Oh my gosh, I love that movie too. But the lions in that movie have manes, and the actual Savoy lions didn't have manes. That's really what is the name of it? In the Darkness something. Anyway, it's pretty good.
Darkness.
True story.
True story. We're going to use that a lot on stuff.
It's definitely
here.
not the Secrets of Isis.
Yeah, not the Secrets of Isis. Anyway, we managed to get there from talking about the Land of the Lost. But yes, Land of the Lost. To get back on that, had some really good writers. They had writers from the Star Trek original series on there. As a matter of fact, Chekhov, Walter Koenig, actually wrote one of the episodes there. But D.C. Fontana, who not only wrote for Star Trek the original series, but also wrote a lot of the novelizations later on, was also a writer on that show. So, yes, I just went in full nerd mode.
Marshall, Will, and Holly.
On a routine expedition.
Yep.
And so, what's your ringer? Because I actually did the work and got 5. I'm just going to say, I'm not bragging.
Did you actually watch 5?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Man, I'm seeing HR Puf'nstuff, and I'm like, I've never seen this show before.
You have never seen HR?
I swear, never saw that show. I don't know if it was just something I just discarded because there was something else I was watching at that time.
Okay, I have lots to say about that in a little bit. Because,
I'm going to wait.
But we're going to get there. But let's do your ringer.
My ringer is Mid-South Wrestling.
Dude.
I mean, my dad would come in about 10:30, and then we would watch Mid-South Wrestling. This is before WWE, WWF, whatever the hell you want to call it these days. The wrestling circuit back then, and I didn't know this until recently, they had different regions that everybody wrestled, territories that everybody wrestled in. And man, dude.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yep.
Junkyard Dog.
Yep. Kamala the Ugandan Warrior.
Yes.
The Iron Sheik.
Who was actually a guy from Mississippi.
Captain Dick Murdoch.
Oh, yeah.
Sergeant Slaughter.
Yep. All started in
Jerry
Mid-South.
the King Lawler.
Jerry the King Lawler.
Yep.
All of those names that got to be household names in the 80s because a lot of them ended up in WWF at the time. Yeah.
And there's going to be some wrestling fans out there, but you know who the absolute king was back then?
Who's that?
Andre the Giant.
Oh, yeah.
The Giant, he controlled everything.
Yeah.
I watched the documentary on him, dude, and it was
He didn't get beat unless he agreed to get beat.
He never got beat until he became the heel.
Yeah.
Because his body was so broken. I watched the documentary, guys, so I'm going down another rabbit hole. But this is really, really interesting to me because, I watched Hogan and him fight it out for the title. And at that time, his body was so beaten and broken. And Hogan was the one telling this on the documentary. He was like, when we found out I was going to wrestle for the title, I kept asking him, Andre, what are we doing? I let you know.
Yeah.
Is all he would say. And he's like, I walk in there the night of the show, and he's always in there drinking and playing cards before the show. And he said, Andre, really and truly, what are we going to do? And he's like, I let you know, get out. And he kicked me out. Kicked me out of the card room. And he said, we're actually in the ring. And he said, we clinched up. And he said, throw me. And as I
throw me?
Yeah, I mean, like how they threw him into the ropes. And he said, I threw him into the ropes, and he come back, and he said, as I'm colliding with him, he said, body slam. Really? And that's when I body slammed him. And then while he's in there, he said, leg drop. And he said, that's when I did the famous, my Hulk Hogan leg drop and pinned him. Didn't know until that night. Amazing.
Yeah.
Totally amazing.
Yeah. You know what, man? That is not only great, because I think every Saturday morning in some place there was wrestling.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, that absolutely is allowed as live action Saturday morning kids program, because it was, if you don't think that's not cartoons, if you don't think that's not Bugs Bunny Roadrunner, which, by the way, on another show, It absolutely is. It is live action theater.
Yeah, and I came up with that because both of us have lost our fathers.
Yeah.
And you start thinking about Saturday mornings and your dad coming in there and it's all right, son. TV's fixing to be mine. And what are we watching? Mid-South Wrestling.
Mid-South Wrestling.
It was awesome.
That's great. Well, okay, folks, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with my top 5. Okay, we're back. So let's go ahead and let's talk about my top 5. Chris has just given his.
I'm really interested on hearing your
top 3.
5.
Okay, so my top 5, and you may not have ever heard of some of these. Okay, so HR Puf'nstuff is my number 5. Okay. Sid and Marty Krofft produced. It was actually started production in 1969, but it aired all throughout the 70s. I think everybody involved was on drugs, if you ever see any of this. Writers, creators, network execs that greenlit this show, drugs.
Did you say 69?
Yes, I did.
Well, there you go.
There you go. And I think they were hallucinogenics. Absolutely. LSD, mushrooms, something. If you ever watch, just look it up on YouTube, and you too, Chris, will look at it and go, drugs.
Now, wait a minute. Just to clarify, I had heard of HR Puf'nstuff, but I never got to see the show. But as I was looking at this stuff, I got to see a little bit of it. Yeah, you're right, man. Everybody in there was doing drugs. Something.
It's a place where inanimate objects are alive and they talk to you. Once again, hallucinogenics. It's okay. So this is from IMDb. Mayor H.R. Puf'nstuff, who, by the way, is a large-headed dragon, and the other residents of Living Island try to help young Jimmy, shipwrecked and led to their island, escape the evil clutches of Witchy Poo, a zany witch who wants to steal Jimmy's talking flute. Hello, for her collection of magical objects.
No, don't take the flute.
Yeah, that's how he talked. But even as Jimmy tries to keep his talking flute out of Witchy Poo's evil grasp, he's also trying to find his way back home. Drugs. Okay, but it was groundbreaking in a way, because kids shows had never really been, at this point, looked like this at all. And so
it was the 60s, man.
Yeah. And it also, now this one did not make my list, but it did have a spinoff called Lidsville, which also was a show about walking, talking hats. I kid you not. It starred Butch Patrick.
I wonder if that's where the chain, the lids came from.
I don't know.
Where you can go in there and buy any sports memorabilia hat you want.
But Lidsville, hats. But it starred Butch Patrick, who was Eddie Munster on the Munster series.
What a show. That was a show.
The Munsters. The Munsters was great, man. I used to love that. And
do you know what their address was?
13 Mockingbird Lane.
1313
Mockingbird Lane.
Yep.
Butch Patrick lives in our town, and so we may actually, I'm not kidding.
Here?
Yes, here. And so we may actually have to try to get him here, because that would be a hoot.
Oh, that would be incredibly awesome.
If we can catch him, because he tours the country with his replica of like the Dragula from the Munsters and a couple of other cars that he takes out. And,
How did you find out he lives here? Well, never mind. You don't have to reveal your secrets.
I know people. And you know the guy too, actually. But anyway, so let's go to number 4 now. So number 5 on my list was HR Puf'nstuff. Number 4, and I don't know if did you ever remember a show called The Lost Saucer?
You know, I saw that on the preview. You know, when I was looking for this stuff, just to jog, and I don't remember that show.
Okay. Well, it had Jim Neighbors, who starred, who had previously played...
Golly.
Yes, Gomer Pyle on The Andy Griffith Show and Gomer Pyle, USMC. I'm sorry, Sergeant Carter.
Which I never missed.
Nope, that was no, Andy Griffith Show. I still watch to this day. You know,
well, Gomer Pyle too. I watch.
Yeah,
anytime I catch it on.
Also starred Ruth Buzzy. She was on Laugh-In. She was an actress and comedian, and she was on lots of shows in the 70s. She was. So it was, it was basically they played these 2 androids, and they could travel through time, and these 2 kids end up with them, and they had a half dog and a half horse called a Dorse. I know.
This is some shit we made up. Sorry.
That's it. Okay, it's the first bleep of the show, kids. That's right. We're going for that PG-13 rating. We want you to be able to listen with your children. But anyway, it was The Lost Saucer. And so now we're going to go to number 3, which we have talked about before, and that's the Shazam Isis Hour.
That's your number 3?
That's my number 3.
I'm kind of interested to see what number 2 is.
Yeah, well, I guarantee you never heard of it either. But well, maybe you did. But we'll get there. But so yeah, the Shazam Isis Hour, like I said, we talked at length about that. But also one of my favorite shows, even though I still think it's sketchy that he was running around in an RV with this old dude.
Too bad he wasn't looking for that ISIS chick.
I know. Well,
maybe the old man was.
Actually, they did. Once they combined their shows, they did some episodes together.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
I do.
Yeah, they did. Okay, number 2. The Kids from Caper.
No.
Okay, 1976. Ran through 76 through 77 season. Okay. And this is a direct descendant. I mean, you can look at it. If you watch clips of it, it is a direct line to the Monkees.
You know, that was surprising to me that the Monkees was a Saturday morning show.
Yeah.
Because I was not old enough.
Well, no, because that was in the 60s. And
we caught the reruns later.
Yeah.
And of course, we always watched the Monkees. It was pretty fun.
But the Kids from Caper, or the Civilian Authority for the Protection of Everybody, regardless, Caper, were a team of 4 teenage boys headquartered in the 927th Police Precinct of the fictitious city of Northeast Southweston. Together, they helped the police solve unusual cases.
Again, drugs. Had to be.
Drugs. Well, it was usually like this. First of all, they always had a pretty girl guest starring that one of the guys would be interested in.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. So they had some cute girl on there, and they would always do a musical number. Now, if you go back and listen to these musical numbers now, they're pretty cringeworthy, as you can imagine. But at the time, it was pretty fun. It was a fun show, and I really enjoyed watching it on there. And plus, they had a giant one-time hot dog van that they converted into their mobile crime lab called the Big Baloney, which I think you used to dance under that name, right? So anyway.
Well,
I don't want to brag or nothing, but yeah. But yeah, it was basically the Monkees. So yeah, corny jokes, music, pretty girls. 10-year-old me, I was all about it. So
that's pretty much a staple for teenage television. Anyway.
Yeah, I was 10 years old, and that was about the time that I started thinking maybe all girls don't have cooties. So
I was way ahead of you on that.
Yeah, I know. But I was 10. That's my excuse. So, and number 1.
Well,
I think we all know this one.
Yeah. Marshall, Will, and Holly.
Marshall, Will, and Holly, Land of the Lost. Man, dinosaurs, man.
I'll be honest with you, dude. I think that's probably everybody's number 1 live action show. It has to be. It has to be.
It should be.
Because everybody knows the reference when you say it.
In
our age, anyway.
Everybody our age can sing the theme song from memory. We're not going to, but they can. But and here's the thing, man. They actually did have some pretty good writing for a kid show. Now, the effects, they did not age well at all. But the Slee Stacks at the time scared me to death.
Yeah,
8-year-old me was terrified of Slee Stacks.
I like the giant toothpick.
The giant toothpick?
You remember when the Tyrannosaurus Rex would come up to the
He'd come
cave
up there, grumpy.
Yeah, they had a big log that they had sharpened the end of, and they'd jam it in his mouth.
And they'd run off. Yeah. And, they did that a lot because they already had that footage completed of the puppet jumping back. So he got to save some money. It starred Spencer Milligan was Marshall. Wesley Ure was Will, and Kathy Coleman was Holly. Kathy Coleman might have been my first TV crush.
Not mine. Ellie Mae Clampett was.
Okay.
She wasn't Saturday mornings, buddy.
She wasn't Saturday mornings.
Anytime she'd walk down that staircase in that evening gown, dude, I just thought she was smoking hot.
You know what? What was it? Donna Douglas, I think, was her real name. And she was a very pretty lady. She really was.
Her and Barbara Eden, boy, they tore.
Oh yeah, Barbara Eden back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's the. Everybody tuned out and they went away. We're going to look at the stats, and this is when they all went, nope. Well, man, I thought this was a fun first show.
It was. I enjoyed it, and I'm sorry about the rabbit holes, but I think that was
the rabbit holes are legit. We're going to keep doing the rabbit holes. I think the rabbit holes are important.
Stuff comes to mind when you start reminiscing and thinking about stuff, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy this.
It's fun.
And this is stuff, honest to God, this is stuff we do anyway.
This is stuff we talk about anyway, so we may as well share it with the world.
Well,
because we're giving that way.
Well, you may be giving, I'm taking.
Yeah, I heard that, brother. Yeah. Boy, it sounds like one of our friends like there. I heard that, brother.
Yeah, I know exactly who that is, too.
I know you do.
I ain't it yet.
But yes, I had fun on this episode. And just a sneak peek, kids, upcoming episode, our next one is going to be our favorite, or what we think is the best album of album of 1981.
As you can see, we kind of grew up a little bit by 81.
Yeah.
And start really paying attention to music.
Yep.
More so than we did before.
Absolutely. So, folks, thanks for listening. I had a good time.
I did too.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, guys. Tune in next time. And remember, you can catch us at retroshow.net. Retroshow.net is where you can go to find out links to all of our social media stuff and links to the podcast and the show notes for each podcast. We may even embed a few videos of some of these TV shows for you guys to check out. I know. It's going to be scary. See if we can find some Mid-South wrestling.
Man, that would be awesome.
It would be. Which, by the way, I think we're going to do a whole show on Mid-South wrestling.
Yeah, I think so, too, because there was a lot of characters.
There were a lot of characters in that. All right, brother.
All right.
Take care, man.
All right, see you next time.
We'll see you. Bye, y'all.